Hi, my name is Becca, and this is a video on allergies. Allergies are also known as type 1 hypersensitivity. Type 1 hypersensitivity occurs when you have a severe immune response triggered by the antibody Immunoglobulin E, also known as IgE. This immune response is often triggered or brought on by common environmental factors called antigens, or more commonly, allergens. Allergens that cause type 1 hypersensitivity can be different from person to person and can include plant pollen, foods such as peanuts, or even pet dander from cats and dogs. Historically, IgE is an antibody that protects us from parasites such as mosquitoes, or tapeworms, ringworms, and flatworms. There are many other parasites that it used to protect us from as well. But since these are no longer as much of a problem, IgE has malfunctioned. This is actually a genetic malfunction that can be passed on through DNA, making it hereditary. This malfunction causes IgE to react to common environmental factors like allergens. This genetic defect, or hereditary defect, is called atopy. It's the reason your parents can pass down their allergies to you, which causes you to feel pretty bad when you're exposed to the same types of antigens. But how does such a small antibody such as IgE produce such a big reaction in our bodies? It all starts when our bodies are exposed to the allergens. Our CD4 plus Th2 cells respond to the allergens and cause the B cells to produce excessive amounts of IgE, which are then released into your system. This IgE is in response to allergens such as pollen, food products, or pet dander. Each person experiences this sensitization. This involves your mast cells and your blood basophils. These cells are granulocytes, which means they contain several vacuoles full of different chemokines, cytokines, interleukins, and other signaling molecules. Mast cells and blood basophils contain receptors on their cell surface called the Fc epsilon receptors. This is where the IgE is able to bind to the cell. No immune response is triggered at this moment. When your body is exposed to the allergen for a second time, it binds to the IgE, causing them to cross-link. When this occurs, the mast cells and blood basophils release their vacuoles out into your system. This is called degranulation. Degranulation results in releasing histamines, leukotrienes, and prostaglandins into your bloodstream. Which is the widening of your blood vessels and smooth muscle contraction. Vasodilation can cause severe drops in blood pressure, and smooth muscle contractions contribute to the closing of your throat, which leaves you feeling like you can't breathe. Other symptoms of type 1 hypersensitivity include rashes, hives, burning, itching, and swelling of your face, extremities, and sinuses. Treatments for type 1 hypersensitivity include antihistamines, steroids, or epinephrine. Now let's look at some current research. Did you know that there are 5 different types of hypersensitivity? That's right. The first one is type 1 hypersensitivity. This is the type that we just examined that involves IgE. Type 2 hypersensitivity involves the antibodies IgM and IgG. These antibodies bind to your host cells and cause cell death by MACs. Type 3 hypersensitivity involves IgG binding to soluble antigens. These enter your bloodstream and are considered circulating immune complexes. These circulating immune complexes can then be deposited onto your tissues, causing severe inflammatory responses. Type 4 hypersensitivity involves your Th1 cells being presented self-antigens by your antigen-presenting cells. Once these are presented, the Th1 cells are activated, and then in the future will recognize self-antigens again. These antigens are presented by most host cells, and when your Th1 activated cells recognize these antigens, they can cause apoptosis or cell death, which can result in severe tissue damage. Type 5 hypersensitivity is called autoimmune disease and is extremely rare. We will not be talking about this in this video. Now let's talk about a certain kind of type 3 hypersensitivity called non-immediate reactions to beta-lactam antibiotics. This occurs mostly in children and is often confused with allergic reactions to drugs administered at the same time as the antibiotics. This reaction occurs about an hour after the antibiotics are administered. The reaction can occur as maculopapular exanthemas, which are rashes or hives, or urticaria angioedema, which means red bumpy skin. If the beta-lactam antibiotics are administered at the same time as any types of drugs, most of the time, the reaction, such as a rash, is equated to a drug allergy, which would be a type 1 hypersensitivity, instead of the actual non-immediate reaction to beta-lactam antibiotics, which is the type 3 hypersensitivity. Just this year, the Pediatric Allergy and Immunology Journal published an article differentiating between type 3 and type 1 hypersensitivity. It was written by M. Itankovic-Markovic and several others regarding how to detect type 3 versus type 1 hypersensitivities. Their objective was to detect non-immediate reactions to beta-lactam antibiotics. They tested over 1,000 children that had a history with this non-immediate reaction to antibiotics. They used patch tests, skin tests, and drug provocation tests. They also tested 300 children for the presence of infections by viruses or pneumoniae. Of the 1,000 children that had a history with non-immediate responses to antibiotics. Only 76 had confirmed positive tests of the hypersensitivity. 57 of them had positive delayed reading intradermal tests. And 19 of the children actually had a sensitivity to the drugs that they were given. Of the 300 children tested for viral infection, or pneumonia, 66 tested positive. And only 2 of these had allergies. What does this all mean? It means that anytime a child is given antibiotics and has a reaction, there should be a diagnostic workup to determine whether or not the child has hypersensitivity to drugs or is suffering from a non-immediate reaction to beta-lactam antibiotics. This helps prevent children from being falsely labeled as hypersensitive to drugs. Thank you for watching!